All right. All right. Welcome to the Anyone Can Farm live chat. I'm Mark, your host, coming to you from Baker's Green Acres in Marion, Michigan. Um, let's see. Today's August 1st, 2023. So we've made it through July. All right, what are we talking about today? The subject for tonight is going to be being a grass farmer. You know, what that means, the importance of grass on the homestead. And Jill picked this subject for me today because she asked me at lunchtime, "Hey, what are we talking about tonight?" And I said, I'll let you know." And I was a very busy boy today. I've been doing hay all week. Let's see, I started, I think, Saturday. Yeah, Saturday is when I started cutting, or maybe Friday. But anyway, I finished baling last night. And, cutting hay around here is always kind of it's a milestone in the year. It's probably one of the most important things that we do or most critical things, I would say. Because if we don't, like, let's say there's a major problem. Sarah at Hold the Line Homestead. That's a new one. I haven't seen that one. Where are you located? I'm just curious. So it's a critical thing, and you're working with pretty major equipment. Although I know guys have more major equipment than I do. I have old stuff and low horsepower stuff, but when it breaks, it used to cause me real problems. Usually now, when it breaks, I know what it is. And I'm able to deal with it right off. This dog's barking out there. Anyway, so I finished right before I came on. I had dinner, and right before that, East Coast of Canada. Okay, East Coast of Canada. That wouldn't be Newfoundland, would it? Or would that be like Prince Edward Island? East Coast, Canada. East Coast of Canada. Probably Newfie. Probably a Newfie. So anyway, that's where I'm at, and I'm feeling pretty good. Right before I came on, I'd eaten dinner, and just before that, I brought up my last load of round bales. Okay, New Brunswick. Okay, cool. And that makes me feel pretty good. I got them all the way up and got them in the barn. I've got a nice full barn full of hay, and what that means to me is that I can make it through the winter. There's no guarantees, but I'm feeling a lot better about going into winter than I was last week at this time, because our first cutting was disastrous. It was a disaster. I got about 40 bales where I usually get 120. Right? It was a disaster because we were in a drought, and it was a pretty good drought. Some people north of me did not get the rain that I got, and they would still say we're still in a drought. I got probably total about 5 inches, and it came in half-inch intervals, which was nice. It was really nice. And I told you guys, well, it wasn't last weekend, the weekend, and not the weekend before that, but the weekend before that, we had a lightning strike on the farm, and it lit the field on fire. and that's how dry it was. But luckily, it was raining when it happened, and me and Jill bolted out there to put it out, and there was a pretty good sized patch that was burning pretty good. And just before we get to it, we had a downpour right on us, and it put it out. When we got there, there was just, it looked like three little candles burning. That's all there was when we got to it. And Joe went over and stepped on it, and that was it. And I felt a little vulnerable standing out there in the middle of a field with a shovel. But then I thought, well, lightning never hits the same place twice. Yeah, right. All right. Belva's with us. How you doing? New Brunswick. I am familiar with New Brunswick because I used to be stationed at Loring Air Force Base in Maine, in Limestone, Maine, which is right up there in, it's way up there, right? So the house that I lived in, I could actually see the markers on the side. You know, there was a kind of a valley in between us, and it was actually called Rivière de Chute. Rivière de Chute. That's French because there was some French people around there, and they would call it Rivière de Chute. I don't know why, but that was the valley, and there was a river in that valley. And on one side it was Canada, and on our side it was the United States of America. So, yeah, I went over into Canada all the time. In those days, you just went through and waved at the guy as you went through. You know, they didn't do anything. It was easy to get through. All the time. I had friends over in New Brunswick. And let's see, what else did we do in New Brunswick? Actually, the Air Force crashed a plane in New Brunswick, and I was in on that crash recovery. So I spent a lot of time over there for that. And then we would go over and just dub around over there. There was really nothing on the American side much, you know, party stores and like Ames department store in Caribou, but nothing really. Everything was over in Canada. So most of us went over to Canada to do stuff, and the people over there treated us pretty decently. On the American side, when you went downtown, you know, they could tell from our haircuts that we were GIs, and so they just tried to rip us off. And they didn't like us much because, like, there wasn't a lot going on in Maine. There was potato farms and a few other things, but not much. So there wasn't a lot of money being spread around. Not that Canada was a whole lot better back then, but at least a little bit, I guess. Anyway, what do I remember about Canada? Not that much that I could say. Just a lot of things flickering into my mind. But there was a place that I used to go to over there called Wolverton's. It was a trout farm. And I went over there one time, and I got to talking to the guy, and he was one of the sons, and I became friends with him. And so me and my kid would go over there and go fishing and just sit around over there. Wolverton's. Yeah. Got to know them pretty good. Anyway, we are going to talk about grass farming tonight because that's what I've been doing. I've been grass farming. I brought in about 80 bales of grass hay. It's not exactly like alfalfa hay. It was mixed grass. There's a little alfalfa in there, but it's mostly trefoil and some people might say that's not a grass, but trefoil, orchard grass, timothy, and clover. We cut a lot of clover, and the tonnage that I take off is pretty great. So let's do a quick calculation on, so people can get an idea of what I'm talking about. You know, I just opened my phone up, and a guy, here we are talking about New Brunswick, and a guy that I was friends with in New Brunswick shows up. Nah, isn't that funny the way it just doesn't want to focus? Anyway, his name is Andrew Wigston, and he doesn't live in New Brunswick anymore, unless Prince Edward Island is considered New Brunswick. I'm not really sure if it is, but he lives on PEI, and I was good friends with him when I lived over there. So it just showed up on my Facebook page. So anyway, I was going to do a quick calculation for you, just to give you an idea of the gravity of what we're talking here. Okay, so 80 bales. And I think that my bales are about 750 pounds. I have not weighed one in quite a while, and I make them heavier than I used to. It used to be that I was thinking that I was going to make them a little smaller so I could lift them up higher and get them in the barn. But now I'm making them as heavy as I can, and I can still lift them. So 80 bales times, let's say, 750 pounds. So that's 60,000 pounds. So that's 30 tons. 60,000 pounds, right? Divided by 2,000. That's 30 tons. 30 tons of hay. So that's a lot of weight. And I will probably get, before I'm done, I will probably get another 30 tons. All right. And I don't know what hay goes for because I don't do that. All right. I don't sell hay. And I want to get into that a little bit. I want to get into the whole shebang, because I see two ways of doing things out there. And one way seems to be profitable. The other way seems to be not profitable. And it seems to me like guys are just treading water, and they're producing a ton of hay and they're selling it, but their equipment is super expensive and they're renting land to cut hay, and they sell the hay so damn cheap. That's the part that really kills me. If I were right now to go on Marketplace, which is one of the best reasons to have Facebook. Let's see, hay for sale, HAY. And let's just see. Okay, here's McBain. This is my town. I'm in Marion, but I live closer to McBain actually. And here is hay for sale, round bales. There's a round bale right there. That looks a lot like my round bales, a whole lot like mine. Let's see if there's any information on it. Nope. Doesn't say how much they weigh. $100 for a round bale. All right. So that guy, if he produced 80 of them and he puts $100 on and sold 80 of them, he would be looking at, boy, my thing's not really moving along. If he had 80 of them times 100, he's talking $8,000, right? So, and would you sell 100 of them? I don't know, maybe, but how long does it take to make? Would it be worth it for me, all the time that I've put in here and the equipment and the land, to sell everything that I just put in my barn and walk away with $8,000 in cash? Okay, $8,000 in cash for 80 bales, and this is going rate for hay right now. Let's see, a 750 pound bale will feed how many cows? How many cow days is that worth? One bale. All right. A cow will eat about 30 pounds of hay a day. So for one bale, one cow, we're going to get about 25 days. So let's see. Let's say that you have, okay, so 80 bales times 80 will give you 2,000 days. All right. Okay, let's divide that by the number of cows that you have. And I am right about 15. I have a few more than that, but 15 is my number. I'm milking 5, and then I've got 10 beef cows. Okay, so 2,000 days divided by 15. That's 133 days I get. 133 days, right? Okay. For 15 cows. All right. I'm losing my train of thought here. Okay. So 133 days. Okay, 365 minus 133. So 230. I don't know. I'm losing my train of thought. I got to let that go. Been a long day, I guess. Excuses, excuses. Who wants to hear excuses? Let's see. The point that I want to make is you can cut a ton of hay and sell it and get a cash amount out of it. Or you can cut that hay, less hay, and feed it to your cows, butcher the cows, and sell the meat. And you'll come out way ahead. So let's see. Because I want to have some exact numbers here. Okay, let's do it this way. Okay, I've got 80 bales of hay times 750. This is my weight, 60,000 pounds. 60,000 pounds divided by 30 pounds a day is going to equal 2,000 days. I can feed for 2,000 days one cow. So if I'm going to feed 10 cows, let's say, divided by 10, let's keep the numbers simple. I get 200 days. Okay, so that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. All right. And 200 days is 1/3 of the year, or 2/3 of the year. I'm sorry, about a little less than 2/3. And the rest of the year, I will be grazing. So I won't be feeding dry hay. My cows right now are not eating dry hay that I'm cutting. They're out wandering around. They're eating grass, right? And they're eating all kinds of stuff too, other forages. So when the year is done, let's say when the year is done, and I have 10 beef cows, and let's say I'm going to process half of them because half of them have to go, half of them will be done this year, will be finished, and the other half will be finished next year. And I'll be adding 5 more calves this winter, right? So let's just say I'm going to process 5 of my cows. Okay, let's talk about the dollars that are involved in processing a beef. All right, you have a 2,000 pound animal. Let's just keep it easy. 2,000 pound animal. You're going to lose half to head, hide, hooves, and guts. You're going to lose half. And then you're going to wind up getting about 50% of that half. So about 500 pounds you're going to wind up with. And we're going to charge, let's just go with hamburger prices times 750. Now, you know that there's a lot of cuts in there that are a lot more than that. Okay, so our number is 3750, and you know it's going to be higher than that. Most times when I talk to somebody, they'll say $5,000 off of a beef. You're going to get $5,000 off of a beef. Now, last year when we did the class, Devin, who's our resident expert, he said it's more like 7,000 per beef. After it's butchered, that's what you're going to take back. That's what you're going to gross. So let me go with, I'm not going to go with the 3750. Let me go with 5. Okay, let me go with 5,000. Okay, and I'm going to do 5 of them. 25,000. Okay, so if I sold my 80 bales, I'd have walked away with $8,000. But I could feed it to my cows, and that's not even, that's only half of them. That's only half of them. I can feed 10 of them, but I'm only going to process 5. See, so that's not even a really good number. It should be more like 40 bales. It should be more like 40 bales. But anyway, you get my drift. All right. Now, see, what we're doing is we're kind of shunning the model where you do a ton of one thing, right? A ton of one thing. So this winter, we have 5 on the schedule, but then my bull is being a weenie, so we're going to process him. And one of my cows, we've been milking her since she calved. Her name is Face, but she gave me that the other day when we were milking, and I said, that's it. I'm afraid that she's going to, and something my daughter said, she said, if somebody winds up with a shattered kneecap, it's not going to be a good thing. And I thought, geez, if that's me, that's the end of my farming career for at least 6 months, or a broken, leg or a foot or something. But my kids are milking this gal. So anyway, she's not working out. And so we just decided her milk's not worth it. And so we're going to knock her off. And she's a milk cow. And I've told you this many times, that there's like spells and incantations in farming. There's things that people say. It is a riot to me. It's a riot that people will ask questions on the tribe. It is so funny. And then other people will try to sound like the smartest person in the room, and they'll give these highfalutin responses and then say midstream, but check with your veterinarian for the straight poop. So if I put on there, what's the story with processing a milk cow? You would have people who don't even farm, don't butcher, never have, but they would say, oh, a milk cow, she's going to be tough. She ain't going to taste any good either. I guarantee it. Somebody should do it just for fun. Put it on the tribe. And I know I'm making fun of my own. I know I am. But it never ends. The people that are getting into farming seem to think that they have all the answers. Oh, I got something to show you guys too. So anyway, we're going to wind up doing about 7 cows this winter, and that might not seem like a lot, but for us, we have a very short time to do that. We don't do beef all year round. If I did a beef for somebody and I charged them hanging weight, I heard today that people are being charged 70 cents a pound hanging weight. So let's say hanging weight is no head, no hide, no hoofs, and no guts. So let's say that the carcass is, say, 900 pounds times 0.70. So that's the check that you're going to be writing, plus anything extra that you want done, anything above and beyond. Oh, yeah. And then there's a $50 kill fee in there. There's the environmental fee. And it'll be right around $750 or maybe $1,000. What do you guys got to say about that? Who's had a beef done at a USDA shop lately? Sean's on. Tell me, Sean, what would it cost right now? Ooh, 113 degrees. You should move to Michigan. You should move. That's why I keep sending you pictures of my son. Sean, what does it cost to get a beef processed? And what would a person be looking at? Okay, if you could tell us. And Sean Wise is with us, right? Cool. And Brian Jacob is with us. Right on. So I guess what I'm saying here, like with most things, if we look back in time, I did a video yesterday and I was feeling really appreciative of the man that settled this place. His name was Ben Brinks. And I was baling hay in a field that he cleared, that he tiled. I don't know if he did it personally or had it done. It was in about 1900 when it was done. So there's a good chance that they did it, by hand. They probably used like a moldboard plow and they pulled a ditch and then cleaned it out and then put these tiles in. And these tiles, what they are is they're clay pipes that fit together. And I think back in the day, they were about 5 or 6 feet long and they just fit them to, wow, $1.20 a pound. Wow, Sean's saying. Sean would know. Boy, that's a lot more than I thought. So then you're up over $1,000, right? Way over $1,000. Yeah, so it gets pretty darn expensive. But I was feeling appreciative, and so I told you guys about the direction that we're veering towards, because we're just trying to make in homesteading farming, you're trying to make the best decisions you can. You don't make bad decisions if you can help it. You kind of like, you're forced to make a decision. You say, well, I think I'll make the bad decision. I'll make the wrong decision here. A lot of times you do that because of the spells and incantations that are out there. And a lot of them come down from industrial farming. I know that sounds a little crazy, but there's things that are said that come down, that filter down. And, like something as dumb as, wow, kill and disposal is $115. Double wrap of roasts and steaks add 30 cents a pound. Wow. That's an expensive proposition. No wonder you got into butchering out there, lad. No wonder. Things like there ain't no money in farming, or a lot of times you hear people talk about scale, right? Scale. Well, you've got to scale up. Well, wait a minute. Scale up. If I make on butcher and 5 beef, let's say I sell them all and I make $25,000 and I can get that done in, say, 5 weeks or 4 weeks. If I were to scale up to twice as many 10, that would be 50,000 and it would be 8 weeks. So I'm not making more money. It's costing me more time. The question is, do I have the time? And if I have to, 12-month wait list. If I have to carry over into the summertime to butcher beef, well, now I got to have HVAC running. And that's going to cost me at the end of the month. So the decision that we made was similar to what the guys did or what Ben Brinks did when he settled this place, is he didn't have that option. He couldn't call up Key Refrigeration and have them come out and install some equipment, and we'll carry the note on it too. He didn't have that option. He was like, well, if I butcher a beef in the summertime, that's going to be a real challenge. Like what they would do is they would make the cuts real quick and get it in water as quick as they could because you can't leave it out because there's so many flies. It draws flies like you wouldn't believe. So they would not butcher in the summertime if they could help it. And I don't butcher in the summertime. I just don't if I don't have to. I did a pig a little while ago, and I had to, though, because we needed it for Tribe Day. And the way we worked that was we started real early in the morning, and we were cleared by noon. We were cleared by noon, and we worked in the shade. And as soon as we got the thing quartered up, in the cooler it went. And there again, I'm using HVAC. I am using HVAC. But if we did it in the fall, we would just kill it, quarter it, set it out on tables, leave the windows open at night. We'll be nice and cool in the morning. So instead of running coolers, at the most we might have to do in our butcher shop is we might have to light off the wood stove if it's way too cold. So you don't want the meat to actually freeze solid because then you can't do much with it either, right? So, all right, Sean Wise is saying, I pay $4.25 a pound hanging weight to my neighbor. Processing done at Ebel's for whole beef is a lot of bucks. $4.25 a pound. Wow. Live beef steers going for up here. I don't know, Sean. I don't know. So you can see the direction that things have gone with beef. It's an expensive proposition. We're grass farmers, so we're feeding our animals grass, right? That's the way to go because I can produce grass relatively cheap compared to grain finishing, and I'm not really into grain anyway. So we choose not to do that. We use a little bit of grain for milking, but that's more of an enticement deal. And let's see if I can connect this up a little bit. Okay, so a lot of you were here during Tribe Day, and I think Sean Wise, I showed you what our plan was for our milking parlor. And it's not really our original plan. The barn was built over 100 years ago by Ben Brinks, and he had a plan in mind. Now, I don't know if it was his plan. I kind of think not, because I see a lot of barns around here that are very similar. I could be wrong, because he was quite a guy, and maybe it was all his plan. But I think that there was a template that they went by, and they would milk 10 cows. In those days, you could homestead 80 acres, but then the work begins because you had to get the stumps off of it, and then you had to start growing something that your animals could eat. You couldn't just go to the co-op and buy a bag of corn. The co-op wasn't there. Nothing was there. You could get cows that came in on the trains, but as far as feed goes, it was in short supply. So you had to feed grass. And so what they would do is they would, stump the land, and then the grasses would start to grow up, and they would go out there and they would cut it. At first, they were cutting it with a scythe. They'd cut it with a scythe, and somebody would go behind them and they'd rake it into piles. The piles would go on the wagon. The wagon came to the barn and it went up on the haymow. That's how it was done. And I was feeling real appreciative yesterday with my 1970s baler and my 50 horsepower tractor, and I was feeling pretty special about getting 60,000 pounds of hay rolled up and stored in the barn. And that would have been way more than Ben would have stored for his 10 cows. My point. What is your point? My point. I have a point on the top of my head. I guess my point is if we believe that there ain't no money in farming, then we might believe that, oh, you ain't going to get any milk if you don't feed grain. You just won't get any milk. Oh, okay. And let's say you're milking 3 cows and you score 15 gallons of milk a day, 15 gallons. Oh, big deal. Oh, big deal. If you're going to sell that grade A milk, right, it's worth $1.44. We figured it out the other day. I was talking to my neighbor. So 15 gallons of milk times $1.44, $21.60. It doesn't really make sense to even do it. The only way it would make sense is if I was getting, let's say, 500 gallons a day times $1.44. And now I'm making $720 a day. I don't know. I think you got to be up around 1,000 gallons. $720 a day is a lot, but to get that kind of milk, you're talking a lot of grain that you're feeding. You're talking a lot of equipment and a lot of feed. Where my overhead for 15 gallons is really low, and we sell milk, raw milk, 15 gallons of milk at $10 a gallon. That's 150 a day. So 150 a day times 7 days. Now, that might not seem like a lot of money to some people. It might. But see, our economy is different. We're talking now of just a facet of this operation, just a facet. I'm not a strictly dairy, not by any means. And I don't want to be strictly a dairy. I wouldn't mind being a little bit more dairy than I am because it is quite profitable. It really is. And that's not what we're making. That's the potential is there. If we were going to milk, let's say 10 cows, a 10 cow dairy, like this place was designed, I don't think I could milk 10 cows at a time because my cows are bigger than they were back in the day 100 years ago. But let's say you got 10 cows and you're getting, let's say, 4 gallons a day per cow. It's 40 times 10. So 400 times 7. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, it's 2,800. So 2,800 times 52, 145 grand. And I am producing enough hay off of this 80 acres to feed 10 cows. Where this breaks down for me is because of the spells and incantations that are put out there, like raw milk is illegal, raw milk is scary, raw milk is dangerous. We don't have a great market for it, right? And it's kind of funny how the milk lobby, right? The industrial ag milk lobby, they call their milk grade A, right? But raw milk, it's like, nah, no, that's not good. It's funny how they do that, name things. It takes a while to get your mindset changed, but I'm pressing ahead, milking the cows that I have. I have 5 cows. I'm looking at getting another one because I'm kicking one out. I'm kicking Face out after she is proving herself to be mean, and nobody seems to have any answers. I don't know how to handle her. She's just a kicker, and she's not just kicking at the milker. She's kicking at whoever's there. She'll try and kick you. She's just mean. And she's gotten me a couple of times. She got me the other day. Really good. My hand is swollen from that. Skinned off a big chunk of meat. Yep. All right, Keith is with us. Yeah, I don't know what live steers are going for up here. I don't, because my thing is kind of a closed loop deal. I think the last time we bought some from my brother-in-law, we paid like 80 cents a pound or 90 cents a pound, something like that, or a buck, something like that. Wasn't wasn't terrible. They were reasonable, and you keep adding hay to them. Hay is cheap, and you just keep feeding them like that for 18 months, and you get quite the beef. You know, quite the beef. So I don't know if my point is coming through too well. It's grass is a good thing. Grass is a good thing. Grass grows everywhere. There's a lot of talk about grass-fed beef compared to grain-fed beef. Cows were definitely, it's a designer item. They were designed, and they were not designed to eat grain. They were not designed to do that. In a lot of places, I know a couple places, they feed nothing but grain. Like they feed corn to them. And I don't know if that's a great idea. It seems like they're sick all the time, and along with the corn, they feed them something else, some little pellet, and I don't know what it is. But some people will say that you get a better finished meat. I'm not sure if I believe that, because a lot of times when I eat something that's been produced on a lot of grain, I get that same sort of aroma of like a Mountain Dew, that same smell. So it's corn, heavily corn, and I don't know. I don't think they're feeding the animals per the design what they were designed to do. I think they were designed to eat grass and forages, and so I'm going to stay with that. Profitability wise, if you commit to buying, if you're not a grain producer, then you're relying on somebody else. And could you become a grain producer? You certainly could. You certainly could. But if you're getting into it, if you're a homesteader or a small farmer, generally you're not going to jump into something like grain production. Generally, I see a little bit of grain production in the homestead world where people will harvest by hand, and they will winnow it by hand, and they'll grind it and make bread. But I don't see large amounts where people are feeding it to animals. Usually that's done on the dryland farms out west, where they I used to live out there, and it just so happens that I got around quite a bit out there on helicopters, so I got to see what was going on the ground, and it is incredible, the work that those guys do, raising grain. They raise a lot of grain, a lot of grain. I've seen piles of grain as big as a football stadium, just out in the open. And that's how they do it out there in the West, because they don't have a lot of rain, so they can store it outside until they get it loaded on train cars, and then it comes east, I suppose, and it's processed into other things. I suppose that's what happens, maybe feed or whatever. But yeah, grass is a good thing. I like grass. I'm glad to be a grass farmer. It seems like with talks of drier conditions, grass still grows. Wetter conditions, grass still grows. Colder conditions, grass still grows. I mean, there's going to be a little influx there, but we don't have to have specialty grasses in order to make it grow. When you drive around here, you'll see corn, and it's just uniform. It's beautiful, but it's a little worrisome what's going on in that corn. A little worrisome. What are they? To me, it used to seem like a beautiful thing, but anymore, I don't know. I just don't know. I guess I don't trust the science anymore. So that's my my thing for the night. Let's see. All my hay equipment is paid for. I don't have any fancy equipment. I have just pretty old equipment, but it still works good. Um, Generally, when something breaks on it, I know what it is before I even find the break because I've been working with it long enough. This is our 19th year here. This equipment, I have had this particular equipment for probably 12 years now. Yeah, 12 years. I had some newer stuff when I started that I owed on because everybody did that, right? And then I wound up selling it because I owed some on some other stuff that I wanted to get paid for, and it's a long story. When you get into farming, coming out of a non-farm career, you want to make good decisions. Like I said, that's the goal: is to make good decisions, but you you sometimes don't have a point of reference and you make a decision. It seems like a good decision when you make it, but shortly after that, you find out that was a bad decision that I just made. And I wound up giving away a lot of my equity to the John Deere dealership. I gave them a lot of equity. I wound up giving one of my Amish neighbors a whole lot of my equity because you know, he knew what he was doing and I didn't. And I rented him land for a long time, really on the cheap. And I just didn't know what I was doing. So anyway, now that I have kind of a handle on things somewhat, this land produces a lot of grass. So for me to overlook this grass and look to the grain farmers to buy their grain for feed, that is kind of foolhardy in a way. And the direction we've gone is if we have animals on this farm that eat grass, then they can stay. But the only animals that are here that don't eat grass regularly are the dogs. My pigs eat grass. They will eat fresh grass. They love it. So I try to bale my hay up so it's nice and green, and they'll eat it all winter long. They really like it. But our pigs are heritage breed pigs. They're Mangalitas. Oh, I got to show you something here. This is worth noting. Just give me a sec. Yeah, so I'm at Tractor Supply the other day, getting a part for my baler, my broken baler. And I'm talking to a guy, and I kind of look over his shoulder a little bit, and I see this Hobby Farms magazine. And I see a Mangalitsa on the cover. And many moons ago, like 6 months ago, maybe even more, a gal calls here and she said, "Could I do an interview with you about Mangalitsa pigs?" I said, "Sure." And so I did an interview with her, and I didn't really even remember that it was this magazine, to be honest with you. I mean, it's not like they were paying me or anything like that. So sure, I'll tell you what I know about Mangalitsa. Why not? And then when I start looking through the magazine, there he is. See the likeness? Yep, that's me. I haven't read the article yet, but I'll get around to it. Yeah. Who knows? I see my name in there a couple times, and I see another person's name there by the name of Barbara. Barbara. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Breed advisor for the Mangalitsa Breed Organization and Registry. Offers some financial advice for new Mangalitsa farmers. Huh. I don't know. I'll have to read it, but I was pretty impressed that I wound up. I mean, this is a real magazine, and it's ironic, that I don't like the term hobby farm very much, but they have some pretty good advertisers in here, and yeah, it should be kind of interesting to go through. All right. There's not going to be a consulting call this week. It's our week off. Tonight's show was brought to you by the Anyone Can Farm Tribe Plus. If you join up with the Anyone Can Farm Tribe Plus, you get consulting with me. We're going 2 nights a month, 2 weeks out of the month on Wednesday night. It's a Zoom call. You get a bunch of other stuff too. There's a whole bunch of manufacturers discounts, whole bunch of video courses, just as much stuff as we can pack behind that paywall. But it's stuff that we feel that will help you in your homesteading journey, right? And sometimes I look back at this and I say, now, what was it that drove us to this? Why did we find this so fun to do this? I came out of the aviation world, and I thought I would be going back to aviation, but I don't know. This just seemed like a lot more real to me, and it was like the propagation of life. It had nothing to do with just transportation or I worked on fighter jets before, and they were all about, killing the other guy, and I didn't really want to be involved in that anymore. And now, where we are in American history, I can see why people might be looking back and saying, you know what, maybe the way we were doing it there for a lot of years was a good idea. Maybe we should go back and do it that way. A lot of I talk about spells and incantations. A lot of the spells and incantations actually come from some of the 3-letter agencies. I don't mean like CIA or anything, but like departments, different lobbying groups, and they lobby for the the centralization of the food supply, right? And I'm not sure they do it so they can starve us to death. I think it has a lot more to do with just creating a pyramid so that there's fewer people at the top that can take more of the profits. I think that's really what it is. It's basically greed. And that's not a hard sell anymore. I mean, pharmaceuticals do it, auto industries do it, insurance companies do it, health organizations do it, homeowners associations do it. They all do it. And it's good if you can position yourself at a place close to the top, and then you'll do okay. And I don't think that is the best way to do things. I think that you can break away from that, and then you're out of that system. You're just broken away from it. And I think that's what a person needs to think about with homesteading these days, because the system, like let's say you have a industrial agricultural system, they are triangulated with, they are interlocked with, they're cronies with, let's say, the insurance industry, right? So if you go against these guys, then the insurance companies will come after you and say, no, well, we don't want to help you. It's sort of like the cancel culture that we see now. If you're for this, then we won't do business with you. And I got to admit, I'm kind of the same way, like if somebody wants to participate in what we do, if they have behavior issues, I'm really not interested in that, where before it would be like, hey, just keep your behavior issues at your house. If you're here to learn something, fine. But anymore, it's gone too far, and those behavioral issues, they're just not welcome. Like before, we would never have even said anything about it, right? But Bob Denop, and Annette Funicello. Annette Witt. Annette Witt. That sounds a little like a nitwit. You probably got that in school. Am I going over the edge there by calling you a nitwit? I'm sorry. But breaking away from the system via homesteading and small farming, I think is the thing to do. And I don't think anybody really gives a damn. I don't think like they're monitoring what we do, and because there's enough people that will just do what they're told. They've got the majority of them. I mean, look at what we just went through. I still see people wander around with face masks on. I went into Home Depot the other day, and this guy looks me dead in the eye, and he's greasy. Man, he is greasy. And he's got, his glasses are all fingerprinty, and he just a bad species, a bad specimen of humanity, right? And he's got just this dirty face mask on his face. Dirty. Like the thing was old. It was like dripping snot. And he says, "Can I help you?" And I just went, "No." And I realized after I said it that I might have hurt his feelings, but it was like, stay away. Like you're in the midst of a bad decision right now. I want nothing to do with you. Right. So yeah, probably kind of mean, but people, I mean, just dumb. Just dumb. Everything we're finding out now. If you're one of us who did not fall for the medication, then you're probably feeling pretty good at this point. But if you were trying to talk, if you were one that fell for it and you were trying to talk your family members into it, you're probably feeling like, ooh, I'm not sleeping so good. Anyway, homesteading is the way to go. As far as prepping goes, we haven't been talking a lot of prepping lately. Really don't know. I don't know about the end of the world type stuff. I do know that it makes a lot of sense to not be very tied to it. Like let's say that your bank account was in the bank of the SS Titanic. I don't think that's a smart thing, because it could sink. And is it in somebody's best interest if it does sink? I think it is. It's like these world wars that we get into. Some people prosper. Some people really don't. Some people get their legs blown off. Some people take rifle bullets to the pelvis, but not the people who are playing both sides. No, not their kids. Just us dumb guys that believe that, we're fighting for God and country, right? No, the people who start those wars, it's like that's the last thing that they can do. We're running out of options here. I know. Let's get a war going. So what I do is I just kind of pull away from the system so that, if all of a sudden they won't let me into the department store because I don't have a face mask on, then I could say, well, then I'm not coming here anyway. And I don't need to. Like during the whole Wu Flu thing, not one of the stores that I went into did I need to. I did because I wanted to. I wanted to see how much of a hard time they're going to give you. So it didn't matter if they said I couldn't come in, and not one of them that said I couldn't come in actually backed up their directives. Not one of them backed it up. Like, you can't be in here. Well, that's not true, because I'm in here, and I'm going to continue to walk in here, and you can't do a thing about it. Watch me. So none of them really could do anything about it. All right. Okay. And that's no, I didn't. That was my husband's last name. I got help from my maiden name in school. What was your maiden name? What was that? Annette Funicello? Could it be? I always liked her. All right. I'm gonna get off. Nice seeing you guys. That's it. That's it. I'm going to get off. All right. Remember, anyone can farm. Time to get to it. Good night.